What is up, guys? In today's video, I'm going to be going over several things you might want to do before Fortnite Chapter 6 Season 4 ends, because it is going to be ending this Saturday, November 1st. As always, if you guys do enjoy this video, find it helpful, informative, or interesting, remember to give it a like, subscribe if you'd like to see more, comment down below what you thought of this season, and if you guys would like to use my creator code when getting next season's Battle Pass or anything else in the shop, it is EvolveJake, like my channel name is, and it is underneath the webcam at all times. So Season 4 is going to be ending here shortly, and this is a type of video I kind of make every season towards the end of the season, because how much changes season to season is something that not everybody is super familiar with. The first thing you're going to want to do is make sure that you've gotten everything out of this season's Battle Pass or quest rewards. But with this season being one of the longer ones, I assume most people who regularly watch my content have kind of already done that. So if you haven't finished leveling the Battle Pass and there's something you really want, probably need to make that a priority. Same thing with quest rewards. But as far as gameplay specific things go, this is one of the harder seasons to talk about, because with next season being a Simpsons mini season, we know very little about how it's going to play, what items will be there. And so it's a bit harder to predict. Usually Fortnite seasons kind of have a staple loot pool that carry over throughout the chapter. If you look at Chapter 6, the Hollow Twister AR, Sentinel Pump, Precision SMG has been here for most of it, except for the Star Wars season, which had its entire own unique loot pool. And that was another collab mini season. So with the Star Wars seasons, we had a lot of unique items themed to that season. And it wouldn't surprise me if we have something similar coming up with the Simpsons season. And so the main thing I can kind of recommend is just to try out different things. One kind of staple of this season's meta has been the double pump, so the Wrecker Revolver combined with another shotgun and then swapping back and forth. And that has been really effective this season, but it is very, very unlikely that is going to be a part of next season, because double pump was a mechanic in early Fortnite that was removed in like summer of 2018. And then it was just gone from the game until this season. So if you have gotten too accustomed to double pump, you might want to try playing with like a pump shotgun and a spray weapon for the final few days, just to somewhat like reacclimate yourself to that playstyle. Or maybe, use one of the spammier shotguns, because again, you might want to reacclimate yourself to that playstyle. That can be hard to do with the season's current meta, because double pump is so good. And that is why I think one of the best things you can probably do is just play reload mode. Reload has a loot pool that is comprised of a variety of different weapons from Fortnite's past. And with the Simpsons season kind of art that we've seen, we do know that the Thunder Pump shotgun is returning, and that either the Striker AR or Scar from past Fortnite season is returning. So I would expect this Simpsons season to be comprised of old Fortnite loot. There will probably be Simpsons items coming as well that are like unique to the Simpsons season, but it seems like the weapons at the very least are just going to be, Fortnite weapons. So getting yourself used to maybe like the third person Bloom ARs, if you never got the hang of them, could potentially be something that benefits you next season. We did see that kind of be the meta throughout the Super season. So Chapter 6, Season 3, we recently had, third person weapons be the meta. But still, just playing reload mode, I think would help you get adjusted to that. It would help you get adjusted to some of those older weapons, and it would also help you get adjusted to some of the more staple mobility items, because with Chapter 6, we currently have like the chainsaw, the witch's broom, the last call knife, shockwaves, and crash pads. And it's very likely, I think, that shockwaves will be in next season, because they are a core mobility item. So if you haven't got accustomed to shockwaves, that is something I cannot stress enough. I've recommended it in so many videos, but shockwaves are an item that kind of come and go throughout Fortnite many times. And if you haven't gotten accustomed to using them, I think practicing with them in, BR, creative, reload mode, things like that can go a long way. I also wouldn't be surprised if the grappler returns next season. We haven't seen anything to indicate that, but it has been something that's there for the November mini seasons. It was in Chapter 1 OG, it was in Chapter 2 OG. I wouldn't be surprised if, this Simpsons season comes along and the mobility is back to being Shockwave and Grappler, like we have had in the November mini season. So just familiarizing yourself with different loot, I think, can be really helpful, whether that's in BR or reload. And also, this is something that can make the game a little more fun to play in these final few days, because if you have been playing the season day in and day out throughout the entirety of it, odds are you're pretty burnt out. That seems to be the case whenever I'm reading comments online about the game currently, or whenever I'm streaming. Seems like a lot of people are burnt out. So using these different weapons can kind of help you maybe get used to that playstyle in case that is something that's relevant in the Simpsons season, but also make these final few days a little more fresh and exciting. And another thing that can make this season a little more fresh and exciting is just to play more aggressive. I've posted many videos about this. I posted one recently about how to actually get better. I think one of the biggest things you want to do if you are someone who wants to improve at this game is just to play more aggressive and get in more fights. And the problem is that a lot of players kind of play a bit slower because they really want to win. But we're in the final few days of the season. Does it really matter if you win a couple more games at the end of season 4? Or if your win percentage is a little bit lower at the end of the season? Probably not. And if you have been playing, pretty passive throughout this season, forcing yourself to play a little aggressive towards the end of it, again, is something that I think will make you a significantly better player in the long run. But it also can make these final few days a little more fresh, a little more rewarding, a little more exciting. So I cannot stress enough how much I think it is essential if you are someone that wants to improve, you get out of that like overly passive playstyle. And the final few days of the season, I think, are a good time to try it because people kind of tend to care a little bit less. They just want the days to go by. Another thing that is kind of similar, in a similar vein to playing more aggressive, is going to be to potentially change settings. If you feel comfortable with your keybinds and with your sensitivity, don't change anything. But if you are someone who's kind of known that like, hey, I want to change this keybind, I want to raise my sensitivity, I want to lower my sensitivity, but you just haven't really decided when to do it, or that time hasn't come yet, again, now would be a good time to potentially adjust any of those settings that you want to adjust, because who cares if you play a little bit worse in these final few days of the season, Anytime you change settings, you're taking a couple steps back to potentially take some forward because of that, adjustment and that learning time. And these final few days of the season are a good time to do that, because who really cares at the end of the season? And also it's something that would make it fresh and make it exciting for you. And like kind of seeing that improvement as you get more and more comfortable with the settings is something that can make these final few days a little bit more fun to play. If you do want to adjust to new settings, I think creative maps are the best way to do that. Any creative map that allows you to fight enemy players is going to be the best with like building muscle memory when it comes to like fighting with that new sensitivity or fighting with those new keybinds. And I think that is essential. And creative mode is also something that, allows you to get in many fights in a very short time span, which I think helps you improve much faster, helps you get a lot of XP faster if you are someone who's worried about leveling that battle pass. And then also it's, again, something that can make these final few days a little bit more fun and exciting. When it comes to map changes, that's something I often talk about in these videos as well. And I usually say to try to land at different spots than you already land at in case the places you do enjoy landing at get removed next season. But with the Simpsons season, we are getting an entirely new Simpsons themed map. So none of the Chapter 6 POIs should be on it. It should be either all new POIs, maybe like 1 or 2 old POIs returning. But either way, it's not going to be an old Fortnite map coming back. So there's really nothing to go off here as far as new POIs. But if you are someone who, hasn't explored certain POIs on the Chapter 6 island, these next few days are potentially your final chance to ever see them. So maybe consider landing at some different locations and seeing, what was there throughout the Chapter 6 map. And then my final piece of advice is going to be to just take a break. If none of this appeals to you and you are someone who's burnt out on the game, I would highly recommend taking a break. As I kind of touched on at the start of the video or during the video, reading comments online, reading comments on my YouTube channel, reading comments while streaming, seems like a lot of people are burnt out on the game. And if you just keep playing every day and don't take any breaks, that burnout probably isn't going to go anywhere. When the new season drops, it might be exciting, but I feel like if you never actually take time away from the game, that burnout isn't really going to actually go away. So if you are someone who just, hasn't been feeling it, don't play for these final few days. Come back when the Simpsons season drop with like a more open mind and not as burnt out on the game, and you might end up enjoying it a lot more than if you didn't do that. But that is going to be it for this video. As always, if you guys did find this to be helpful, informative, or interesting, remember to give it a like, subscribe if you'd like to see more, and I will see you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching.